Hello. Have you ever been right about something purely by luck? Like you're in traffic and you just find yourself in the fastest lane. When that happens, humans have a really interesting way of flipping that whole thing and saying, that was my skill. I made a good decision because I'm skillful at these things. I just knew what was coming. But then the next time you're in traffic, you end up in the slowest lane. And so what ends up happening is that you were right just one time. The thing is, being right one time is nice, but it's mostly just luck. If you can be right almost every time, that's a whole different thing. So what I want to do in this video is show you how you can replace your luck with a system for making the best decision every single time. I'm going to show you some examples in everyday life to illustrate my point here. But if you've got your head screwed on properly, which I know you do, think about where accurate decision making can make a big difference in your life. Areas like making money or investing, the decisions you make in that world. If you can make the right decision almost every time, this whole method becomes very overpowered. So I think sometimes you can be right just because you are smart. You spotted a trend and you took action on that trend and it benefited you positively in some way. But a lot of the time you can make the right call just by being in the right place at the right time. In other words, that's luck. So I put together something called the outcome matrix. If you have a bad process and a bad outcome that goes with it, that's just showing that you weren't very good at the thing and you weren't lucky at the same time. If you have a good process but a bad outcome, well, that's just unlucky. Just like we can be lucky, we can also be unlucky. If you have a bad process but a good outcome, well, then you've just been lucky. But if you have a good process and a good outcome, well, that's a deserved success, and it's actually a repeatable formula if you know the formula in the first place. The thing is, humans have this unique ability to have a bad process but a good outcome, aka get lucky, and attribute that success to skill. Like, I knew what I was doing, I knew what I was saying, and you're almost convincing yourself that you had a good process when actually there was no process involved at all. And this gets really confusing because all of your deserved success, the times where you've had good outcomes with good processes, get mixed in and washed up with the good outcomes and bad processes. So what that leaves us is in a state of, I don't know what a good process is. I don't know how to repeatably be right because there's no trend to follow. There's no pattern recognition there because the bad processes and the good processes are all mixed together. And what this results in is that most decisions are feelings masquerading as data. And that will make something called the reactive loop. So let's say you have a situation that you're analyzing right now. Let's say your mood changes on it or your sentiment changes, how you feel about that whole situation changes. Your brain internally will register that as data to make a decision. The only problem is that that's not a very informed decision. It's an emotional decision. You can also get this when you feel urgency in things. It will make you do things differently. It would make you act quicker. You see this a lot in the investing space where a big narrative comes out on Twitter or on YouTube or whatever, and everyone starts to pile into that investment because they think it's now or never. Both of these are emotional situations, sentiment-based situations, and aren't actual data, but we can convince ourselves that they are. We then make a decision on that topic, and then we rationalize that decision. And this is where 99% of people are, making decisions based on these narratives, emotional data points that aren't actually true data points. So there's a litmus test here that if you see someone who's got a thought about something, or you recognize a thought in your own mind, a conclusion that you've come to, these are two really important questions that you can ask. And this alone will stop you making just a load of bad decisions already. Sometimes being really successful consistently is about not losing more consistently. To clarify, that's not what we're talking about in this video necessarily. We are talking about making the right decisions almost all the time. But I also wanted you to know that losing less is also good too. The first question is, what do you believe? Which you can follow up very quickly with question 2, which is, what would change your mind on that belief? And if you can't define what would change your mind, you aren't thinking. You're actually doing something called defending a position. And the thing is, if you end up defending a position, any movement from that position starts to feel like you're losing. And it's human nature to not want to lose. You want to be on the winning side every time. But we have this amazing ability to remain in echo chambers, oftentimes echo chambers that we create for ourselves. And it's our unwillingness to budge from those echo chambers that makes us make the bad decisions. And again, when you apply this to investing, it starts to blow your mind. So we all know these people online where they're making predictions all the time, like this is going to happen, AI is going to take over, the global economy is going to collapse, oil is going to spike in price, whatever it is. There's always these predictions going around. But I want to tell you why I will never be making predictions ever again, because it's absolutely nonsensical. Let me explain. When you make a prediction, the results are very binary. You were either right or you were wrong. And with what we know about the outcome matrix that I talked about, you can actually have a bad process but a good outcome, and have that good outcome mixed in with the other good outcomes that had good processes. So you could make a prediction and be right, but your rationale and your reasoning for that prediction could have been incorrect. You just got lucky with the outcome. It's the same on the other side. You can get unlucky by having a good process but a bad outcome. And it's not fair to pool the bad results from bad processes in with the bad results from good processes. Binary suggests that there are 2 outcomes here, when in fact there are 4. So making a prediction, requiring a binary outcome, isn't the best way to get repeatable good results. You will get good results by way of luck or by way of a good process. You'll just never know. Hence why it's very hard to make predictions that continually are correct. You're playing 2 different games. You see the logic, how it doesn't work. So if making predictions is amateur hour, then let's talk about being a pro. A pro isn't prediction focused. They're more focused on updating their thinking. So you must decide what matters beforehand. And this is the psychology of what I'm calling pre-commitment. And pre-commitment is absolutely the key to making the right decision almost every time. And I keep saying it, but when you apply this to buying assets or investing, this is powerful. So there's one fundamental truth that I want to talk about right now. And that is, once you care about the outcome emotionally, your objectivity will drop to 0. Your brain will stop asking, is this true? And will start asking instead, how do I justify staying consistent? Or how do I justify staying in my echo chamber? Very easily, and you will know this in life, you can justify your reasons for doing something even though the bad outcomes still continue to come up. You can justify why you would keep making predictions without analyzing whether it was actually unlucky because you had a good process but a bad outcome, or whether it was justified because you had a bad process and a bad outcome. So with all the noise in the market and all the emotion flying around, it's absolute chaos, as you can see on the screen. The shapes are everywhere. It's this is how the market operates. So if you want to make sense of it all, you have to install a filter. And that filter is that pre-commitment thing that I talked about earlier. And what pre-commitment does is it allows you to put all of the shapes back into order and have a linear process and actually see what's happening. And I'll tell you right now, pre-commitment, at least installing this filter, will take you from emotional into logical, rational, and actually just being right all the time. So I want to bring you a little bit deeper into this pre-commitment model. I actually call this my macro method. If you don't know me already, I do institutional grade research to find the next big opportunities in the financial world, in investing, blockchain, and cryptocurrency. This is my own method that I use in my research and share with clients. And very simply broken down, this macro method goes like this. You have a thesis, validation signals, invalidation triggers, and status tracking. I think to explain this, we need an example. So let's talk about something that we have all done in life, most of us have done, is buy a house, right? You've gone around, you've looked for the right house, you've gone to different locations. Really what you're going on is this emotional data point, which is like, oh, I feel like it's at home here, or I'm at home here, or this one feels good, I like the vibe of this. And these might be good data points for you if you're prioritizing and optimizing for a long period of time in that house, like this is going to be your forever house type of thing. Most people, though, don't exist in that reality. If you have a more investing frame of mind, your criteria should not be, I like the vibe of this. It should be a whole bunch of other different data points that aren't emotional. So instead of buying a house on these emotional signals and this sentiment feeling, this narrative that you tell yourself about that specific house, it would be better if you did want this to be an investment property or something that you could take advantage of later down the line. You do need other data points, and this is exactly how I do it. Number one is to have a thesis. So you're not engaging in this with emotions or a sentiment. A thesis is really just a concise phrase about what you believe the outcome will be. And it has to be a claim instead of kind of a wishful thing that you hope to happen. There's a slight difference there. And so an example of that, if you're buying a house, would be like, well, this neighborhood is going to appreciate in value due to the new transport links and school ratings that it has. That would be an example of a thesis. It's not emotional. It's just those are the facts. It's objective. That's a claim, right? But step 2 in the process is where we actually add in validation signals. This is what truly separates the amateurs from the professionals in decision making. The amateurs will just mostly replace this step with new feelings that they might get. I showed you that flywheel earlier of how you have an emotion or a feeling of urgency and that impacts your decision. but a professional will actually create validation signals. So these are a series of points, a series of things that would need to happen in order for the thesis to be correct. So if we're talking about the neighborhood going up in value, for example, because there's a new railway line being installed or the schools are improving in that area, well, then the signals that you would be looking for to validate that thesis, like for example, the government might approve plans to increase the size of the train station, or a big company moves into town and they're going to create lots of jobs, or the school's annual inspection comes around and it does really well. These are validating signals that would confirm your thesis. But really, without step 3, none of this is really important at all, because you can have confirmation signals, but you don't have a true thesis, and you cannot make the right decision every single time if you don't have step 3, and that is invalidation triggers. You actually have to have it out there. It has to be possible for you to be wrong in order for you to be right. And this whole pre-commitment thing that I talked about earlier, this filters out all of the bad decisions and only leaves you the good ones. Again, apply that to investing and it gets insane. We are going to loop that in at the end. Because without step 3, without the ability to have your mind changed or the outcome changed, you don't actually have a logical and rational thought process. What you have instead is a belief system. And beliefs are intrinsically tied to your emotional state. Remember, this is the opposite of emotional decision making. This is a real thought process. So invalidation triggers are, well, here is my thesis. What would need to happen for my thesis to be proven wrong, to be invalidated? So the big extension on the train station might be cancelled for 5 years, or you might see crime statistics going up in that area, or you might see a big business that's moving out of that town or out that neighborhood, removing a lot of jobs in that area. And these are concrete, logical, rational things. They're not emotional things. So if you're buying that house and a friend says, oh, I just get a weird feeling about that area, just because they have an emotional story to tell you, it doesn't impact you. You don't have this fear of missing out. You don't have this response to them that's emotionally based, like, oh, they said they don't feel good about it. So you don't use that as a data point to make your decisions, right? You actually have specific invalidation triggers that determine your decision. And then finally, it's all about tracking the status of these validations and invalidation points. I break these down into 4 different categories. The first one is strengthening. The second one is neutral. The third one is weakening. And the fourth one is broken. If you have no emotional attachment, any one of these statuses can be applied to your thesis. All it depends on is how many validation points have we had confirmed and how many invalidation points have we had confirmed. And you'll see where it balances out. You might have 2 of the validation signals already confirmed, like those things actually happened. The school did get the good rating. The train station did get that extension approval. On the invalidation side, maybe crime statistics are going up, and that's the only invalidation that's been confirmed. And so you start to feel out this weighting. You've got more things validating your thesis than are invalidating. So the status of that would be strengthening. If it was tied, you had 1 validation and 1 invalidation, then it would be neutral. If you had 2 invalidations confirmed and 1 validation confirmed, then you'd be weakening. And if all 3 of the invalidation signals were triggered, then the thesis is broken. The thesis was simply incorrect. The thing is, if that does happen and you end up with a broken thesis or a weakening thesis, you're not going to make a decision on that. I would even suggest that if you're investing and you're looking to make the best decision every single time, any scores that you get that are neutral, weakening, or broken, you're simply just not going to invest. So you have to keep on top of this status tracking in step 4 to make sure that only the best opportunities are coming through at the end. Another thing I want to say here, a neutral status does not mean indecision. And I can tell you from experience that being early often feels the exact same as being wrong. And all it means to be neutral is that there is simply not enough information for the thesis to be strengthened. I cannot justify any action being taken when things are this way. So just like I was saying, if you're neutral, weakening, or broken, you're not going to make a decision under those conditions. And so the key to making the best decisions every time is not to have some brilliant stroke of luck or make these brilliant predictions all the time, because those are emotional based, and you as a human will always try to resist being wrong because it'll feel like losing to you, and nobody wants to lose. So you keep yourself in an echo chamber to stop yourself from being filled with noise that makes you think you lost. So instead of trying to have this massive moment of brilliance, instead create a system. it doesn't care about your emotions, and it only responds to data-driven signals. And so if we applied this to the world of investing or making just the right decisions every single time, instead of predicting that a specific crypto is going to go up in value or listening to other people's predictions, which is probably the worst one, you actually start to write out a series of theses. For example, if you're interested in the world of AI, you'll know that AI agents are starting to take control of the internet, essentially. Well, you could have a thesis to say, well, perhaps one day AI agents are going to work in the banking system and make banking system decisions for payments and the finances of the whole world. Maybe the AI agents do a better job than humans. And so my thesis could be AI agents will replace humans in decision-making in banks. There you have a thesis. You start to look at validation signals. Well, maybe one of the validation signals is that a top entity like the Bank for International Settlements or the IMF or something releases a paper on agentic AI and has a positive outcome. If that did happen, then you could check that off because you are one step closer to having that validated. An invalidation trigger could be something like the BIS creates a report suggesting that agentic AI is about 10 years away from being used in the banking system. Well, that would be an invalidation trigger. But I want you to get into a frame of mind. I've got a whole framework of thinking about this. I want to give that to you for free. Just hold on a second. But if we start to see a thesis like that confirmed, well, then you can start to think, well, are there investments? Are there assets that are actively trying to connect agentic AI into the banking system? Already, you've got an insight into a world that nobody else is looking at. In other words, you can analyze these signals and see where the gaps are and see where the opportunities are. And oftentimes, as I have seen, in these small little gaps, in these rabbit holes, in these multiple levels of questioning, deep in these theses, are projects that are so small that the returns on those projects are so outsized versus anything else you see. You always see these Twitter accounts or YouTube channels where they're like, oh, I invested $1,000 into Dogecoin, a Shiba Inu coin, and it just exploded. That does happen. I think for the most part, that happens when people are lucky, so they have a good outcome with a bad process. But you can strike opportunities like that almost every single time if you engage that pre-commitment filter that I've talked about, having a thesis, having validation signals, having invalidation triggers, and updating the status accordingly. By the time you actually come to make any decision whatsoever, it will always be a decision that is correct because you've had the signals validated sufficiently for you to make that decision. You will never take action on an investment if the amount of validation and invalidation triggers are the same, or the invalidation triggers outweigh the validated triggers. And so by the end of the filter, all you have are good decisions. Do you see what I mean? This is how you can be right, not just one time, but almost every single time. There's a lot more to it, by the way, and I want to give it to you for free because it's probably too much for one video. It's called my macro method. I've put the link in the description for you to register. I'll send it straight to you, absolutely free. I've got nothing to sell you here. Get into that document, learn my process and learn the process for making the right decision almost every single time. And I really hope you enjoy it. As I go through this process, I start to build out a portfolio, obviously, for myself. This isn't financial advice. I build out my own portfolio based on the outcomes of all the theses that I create. These are only very well-informed purchases, right? Because they've gone through the filter. And I do all of that on eToro. eToro saw this portfolio and my method and thought, hey, that is really cool. We want to share that with your audience in a unique way. And so they allowed me to have the entire portfolio on eToro, and every single one of you can actually copy that portfolio. eToro in the UK have released a new promotion. So if you're in the UK, you can get up to $500 for free of one of the assets that's in the portfolio that I've built, just for signing up and funding your account. If you're not in the UK, you won't get that promotion, but you can still participate in that portfolio and see the assets that are being added there. Thank you to eToro for continuing to sponsor this channel. Love eToro. I'll be back in a couple of days with a new video. If it helped you, it will likely help someone else, so please do share it. Subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching the macro. I'll see you in the next one.